On a cold November afternoon in 1872, around 4,000 spectators gathered at Hamilton Crescent in Glasgow to witness something the world had never seen before. Two officially recognized national teams, England and Scotland, walked onto the pitch for the very first international football match. Let us begin where it all started. During the first few decades, the chart is almost entirely dominated by the British Isles. England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland regularly faced one another in the British Home Championship, one of football's oldest annual competitions. At this stage, international football was still a local affair. Long-distance travel was slow, expensive, and often unpredictable, meaning only a handful of neighboring nations could compete consistently, allowing these early pioneers to build a commanding lead. But that advantage would not last forever. As the 20th century approaches, football begins spreading rapidly across mainland Europe. Countries such as France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Hungary, and Austria establish national associations and begin arranging regular international fixtures. In 1904, FIFA is founded in Paris, giving international football its first global governing body. The sport becomes better organized, more structured, and far more connected. Friendly matches increase, cross-border rivalries develop, like the dense early clashes between Belgium and the Netherlands, and the pace of international competition begins to accelerate. Watch how the chart slowly starts filling with new European nations. But Europe is not the only continent joining the story. Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, and Chile begin playing regularly through regional competitions and an expanding calendar of friendlies. In fact, Argentina and Uruguay ignite what would become the most frequently played rivalry in international football history, meeting well over 180 times. Driven by early South American icons, these nations climb the rankings at an impressive pace. For the first time, the British nations are no longer pulling away from everyone else, as the rest of the footballing world begins to catch up. Then, in 1930, international football reaches another historic milestone as the very first FIFA World Cup is held in Uruguay. Suddenly, international matches carry greater importance than ever before. As the late 1930s give way to the Second World War, you will notice something unusual happening on the chart as movement slows dramatically. Across much of Europe, international football is forced into an extended pause, and for years, many nations play very few official matches. Yet football never disappears completely. In South America, international competitions like the Copa America continue whenever circumstances allow, enabling several nations there to steadily reduce the gap on Europe's early leaders. When peace returns, football returns with even greater momentum. The 1950s and 1960s become decades of remarkable expansion. As international travel becomes easier, football associations grow stronger, and more countries join FIFA. This is the era of Ferenc Puskás and the unstoppable mighty Magyars of Hungary, and a young 17-year-old named Pelé, who launches Brazil into a golden era. Notice how Sweden also surges surprisingly high up the leaderboard during this period, quietly accumulating hundreds of international fixtures. Keep an eye on the chart now, because this is where the gaps between countries begin shrinking, and the early advantage enjoyed by the founding nations slowly starts fading, as football becomes a truly global sport. By the late 1960s and into the 1970s, another major transformation is underway. Across Africa and Asia, newly independent nations establish national teams and join international competition. Confederations strengthen their regional tournaments, qualification pathways expand, and entirely new footballing nations enter the global calendar. You will notice dozens of fresh names appearing on the chart, from African heavyweights like Egypt and Nigeria to Asian trailblazers like South Korea. Driven by intense regional schedules and Olympic campaigns, South Korea becomes one of the fastest moving bars on the entire chart. Quick question for you. Which country are you watching from? And where do they sit on the board right now? Leave your country's name in the comments below. As we move into the 1980s, international football becomes more competitive than ever. World Cup qualification expands, continental championships grow in size, and more fixtures are scheduled. This is the age of Diego Maradona's legendary World Cup runs with Argentina and classic European clashes featuring icons like Johan Cruyff, Franz Beckenbauer, and Michel Platini. Then another historic moment reshapes the chart entirely as The breakup of several nations in Eastern Europe leads to the creation of new national teams almost overnight. Countries that had previously competed under one flag now begin writing entirely new football histories of their own. Watch how new entries like Croatia, Ukraine, and Russia suddenly appear and begin climbing surprisingly quickly. Entering the 21st century, the international calendar becomes busier than ever before. North American rivals Mexico and the United States rapidly stack up match counts through expanded Gold Cups and continental tournaments, surging toward the top tier. This era is dominated by the legendary international careers of Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, driving Argentina and Portugal through endless tournament runs. Qualification campaigns now stretch across multiple years, friendly windows become standardized, and newer competitions such as the UEFA Nations League replace many exhibition matches with meaningful competitive fixtures. If you're enjoying this journey through football history, don't forget to leave a like on the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy uncovering the stories hidden inside the numbers, be sure to subscribe to Decoding the Numbers for more data-driven journeys through the history of sport.